This is Hunter Muse.
And this is Chris Snipes, and you are listening
to The Melt.
maybe since you haven't been on the Melt before, and I know you've done this many times, but maybe just for those who are just now stumbling upon Frankie FearLess, maybe give them a little background.
Okay. Well, my name's Frank Castle. Everyone calls me Frankie FearLess. I adopted this nickname from a while back. I worked for the USDA and I fell on the job, broke my neck and back. I was told I was never going to walk again. They relieved me from duty. I had been, still am, in music for over 20 years. I said, by the time I'm 50, I'm not going to be able to walk. So I went to every doctor. Everybody said, you're not going to be able to walk. There's nothing you're going to be able to do. Pain medication. And it was pretty forced upon me at that time because I was in bad shape. Then to get a phone call to go on the Indie Boom 2014-2015 tour. So my injury took place in 2013. And then I had the ability to go on tour with Wu-Tang Killer Bees and different members of hip hop community that I'm in a hip hop group at the time called The Heist. And I said, well, maybe I could do a last hurrah somehow. And they gave me a spinal epidural. I asked my doctor, give me something to help me walk. So they numbed me completely. And a month before, I get a phone call from the radio station out in Denver. They're like, hey, so it was Truth Frequency radio. So it's like a whole network. They were based out of Denver at the time. They said, hey, your poster is in the store. One of the weed shops right by my place. Mm-hmm. I'm a quarter mile from your first show. Why don't you come stay with me? Now, I knew this gentleman from my 10 years earlier who interviewed me on just conspiracies, government conspiracies. I had gotten into the USDA because I needed a job. And I had witnessed a few things that were pretty crazy. I really couldn't talk about them openly, but I was able to share enough to let everyone know, hey, look, this is pretty much what's going on. So he said, you should come here. And I told him my scenario. I said, look, man, my back's real bad. It's a really bad scenario. I don't know if this is a good idea. And he said, no, you're going to come here and you're going to drink ayahuasca. You're going to smoke DMT. We're going to get you up and walking around and off all the medication. Stay with me like a week. I was like, what? So I looked into what this stuff was, DMT, ayahuasca. It was plant medicines, right? Liquid version or in a smokable version. I heard Joe Rogan at the time was the only one talking about it. And there was a whole bunch of stuff from Terrence McKenna. I was in no way cared about anything about beings and interdimensional stuff. I have no care for any of this. Mm-hmm. This is how I was at the time. I said, I just want to heal. So I was like on a mission to heal. And I was there the first night and we smoked. What's supposed to last 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, turned into an hour and a half as my first time going under DMT, 3 giant hits of the smoke from the peace pipe. And these beings collected me right from where I was sitting. I watched a portal open. They pulled me through. I went on this little weird moment where I thought I was poisoned. I thought they killed me. There was a lot of people in the room watching me. They had cameras and stuff, which I thought was weird. I could see everything going on. I've never been out of my body like that. I've never witnessed any kind of drug like that. I thought I was dead. Then before they took me completely, they put me back in to show me, oh, you're fine. And I just sat up. I was like, I think you guys tried to kill me. Wait, I'm fine. And then boom, back out again, like directly into it. So while I was gone, they said I was channeling and speaking all kinds of weird stuff. They were filming me. They said every time the camera went on and it went directly on my face, that I would look directly into the camera. Like, and it was, they thought, disturbing my experience, but I don't recall any of that stuff. I do, however, remember later on in the experience, the light went on me and I looked and it brought me into another experience that I was having on the other side. Like, it changed the whole experience to something I had an experience where all of us in the room that were together, and I didn't know some of the people there, we were all together at another point in history doing the exact same thing. And I was the shaman though. And it was really weird. The host, my friend and his wife, he was marrying her, but she was my sister. It was a weird moment. We were sitting there and then people were on a rock by a river. We looked like American Indians. And then I kind of faded out of it. And I was like, oh my God, this one. And you're my brother. And as I came out, I said, where's the experience? They go, you all die right after that moment. I'm like, what? And they said, right after that, people come right over that rock and you guys are done. So you've had this experience before. And I was like, who is talking to me? What's happening? Like, where am I? So I was brought on a little adventure. I went to the moon. I saw the soul. Now this is in 2014. So it was a soul recycling machine. It wasn't allowing us to reincarnate. Like, it was forcing us to come right back.
Yeah.
So it was like a machine that was sucking in what looked like souls, and beings were just sending it back, and some beings were eating it, which was really weird. I've never seen any of this. I had no how do I say this? I had no nothing. I was into UFOs, sure, all kinds of conspiracies, but I really never touched reptilians. That was just Conan fantasy comic book stuff to me. I thought all the conspiracy lied within the government and the different corporations. I thought they were, I watched it from the inside, and I'm so far removed from it now. I watched them all collude with each other. So I knew it was all bullshit across the board. I knew they were fluorinating the water. I knew all the people in the water place. I knew all the people in the meat place. I was doing fruits and vegetables. It was painfully obvious what was happening. So I had all this stuff already in my head that I knew. I had no clue. You could have said, Frank, I'll give you, take an hour and you could try 6 or 7 times. You win $1 million. Just guess something that's going on, like what it really is happening to us here on this planet. I would have not gotten it right. That's how I read comic books. I was into all that stuff. I would have said, you're making it up. It's fantasy that you read in a comic book somewhere. Okay. Once I saw it, it's been going on for so long. It's resonating in our consciousness lifetime after lifetime as trauma, mostly. And then we're witnessing that and then doing stories. And it's these amazing stories of like weird moments, like with characters like in the Avengers, right? Those are basically like the Olympians, and the Olympians are the gods of old, the lowercase g's, and then those guys are really ETs from over here. Like, they're all the same thing over time. You go back far enough and it's you and me. That was the weirdest thing. I'm like, wait, do we all get a chance at doing this? And they're like, you guys are in a giant massive collective, so everyone has a come to Jesus moment or a come to whoever moment where you're like, oh, maybe it's me. Maybe it is me. Well, it's really all of you, because they think the Christ. I had to deal with this on a weird level. Like, the Christ wasn't a guy. Like, it wasn't like, I was Catholic. I never went to church though. I had to when I was a kid. I gave up on all that. I thought that was all baloney, right? And then I'm like, well, where's Jesus? I'm on the other side. I'm like, well, where's Jesus? They're like, does he matter? I'm like, well, he's the whatever son of God and this and that. And then they were like, no, that's you. They were like the Son of the Sun. This is my music group that I'm in now, Sons of the Sun. And it S-U-N. We're all sons. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? And they're like, the Christ is an energy that you are made of, that
Mhm.
breaks through the outfit. You don't go and collect it. It's already you. But you're like the man in stone that's carving himself out of the stone. And the
Mhm.
stone is the trap that we're in. See, everyone's looking for the trap out there. It's over there. It's right in front of us. It's like you're almost like your own aura is a bubble or a force field of protective energy that can also show you stuff. And if that's been hijacked, the images that you think are here are being projected right here in front of
Right.
you, because it's all happening on the inside. And you're like, in my mind, I'm seeing this right here. And this is what's being shown to me. And when you're hijacked, you cannot see. It's like a layer, and then you spot something, and it's like, yeah, well, that's a person.
Mhm.
You take those layers off, and you're like, that's not a person, right? So it's like little windshields that have been put in front of us, in front of our eyes, like our optics, but it
Mhm.
projects in our bubble. It's been confusing us for years and years and years and years, and this has been going on for a long time. There's this deception that's happening. Anyway, so I start seeing that the deception's coming from Saturn. There's like an a sound wave of some kind.
Mhm.
I looked at it. I said, it looks like the old record players. It looked like the rings on Saturn. They were like this, and well, let me see on the camera, like this, and projecting towards the moon and us. And then from the moon, it got focused, and then a beam was hitting the planet, like so, just surrounding us.
Yeah.
And it was the sound Saturn was making. The rings were. I said, "There's people in the rings." What the? I was like, "What's going on?" I was a floating spirit that still looked like Frankie.
Mhm.
I had a guide that looked like a king. He looked like a king. He had a bird's head though. And I was looking at him. I'm like, I know this guy, right? As far as I know now, that was probably a version of me helping me out, showing me these things, and then comforting me each time I broke down. On each end, I broke down. Then as I worked my way, they said they're controlling you with the sound, because everything's like light and sound and frequency, vibration. Like they were giving me the whole breakdown. I saw the sun was a portal. I actually went through the sun, and then I was in source, and my guide said to me, go ahead, ask any question. And he just disappeared, and I was in the light, and I'm like bathing in light. I'm like, okay, well, where are you? Who's this? God? And he's like, no, this is source. We don't use God for us.
Mm.
God denotes a few things, like a boot on your neck. I would never put a boot on your neck. He was so confused. Like it was so sincere. And I was like, whoa, it's the big guy. Like I felt it. I was like, whoa, this is source. I said, why? First thing that came to mind out of everything was, why'd you leave us? Why'd you leave us down there? Did you just see? I said, I just came up here. Did you see what I saw on the way up here? Do you know that?
Mhm.
He's like, yeah. I said, why didn't you do anything about that? Why do you not do anything? He goes, I did. I sent you. I was like, what? And then it just flooded me. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm so sorry. He's like, it's all right. You got to wake up. They're like, you. So I'm in a music group called, at the time, The Heist. It turns into Heist Click because there was a whole bunch of us in it. And Source says to me, it's always been a heist within a heist within a heist. And I'm like, what? He's like, well, the enemy can read you. What you consider the enemy is just you doing it over there. It's me. It's all me. Everything is me. Don't even think something's fake and artificial. Does it run on electricity? Yes, it does. It's me. Just keep that in mind. So that makes it you. I'm like, no, I'm not you. Look at me. I'm Frank. Frankie is not you. I was like in awe. You almost want to bow or something, or kneel or fall to the floor and cry. But I stood there.
Mhm.
And he says, I got a question for you. Why are you not creating? When did you stop creating? Because that's what anchors me into the planet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then once again, take a look. And I'm looking down, and I see, it looks like chains. And they were or strands of light, like light bands connected to other beings, like me and you, I guess, you know, like all the creator beings.
Mhm.
And I was learning this right then and there on the spot. I had no clue what was happening.
Mm.
And I said, oh, look at that. Whenever someone does something, I mean, remotely small in a good way, even a thought, it got closer. And I go, whoa, are we getting closer or are they getting closer? And he's like, you want heaven on earth, right? You got to unleash source, but you're me. So I'm like, I'm not you. And then I wasn't me. I was my higher self. I was standing there as a complete light body being. I felt completely different. There was a mirror reflection so I could see it. It was very difficult for me to look at and not burst into tears. But at the same time, I don't want to say superhero because it sounds too outrageous, but I've never felt that good in my life. I was like, I can do everything. Like, and I was like, wait a second, I'm like a little version of you. How did that work? And he's like, no, you are me, but you're your own individual. So you'll always be connected to me, but you have the exact same abilities as me. So being Italian, I'll explain a little more. He says, invite everyone over for dinner. I have a whole table. I saw all these people at dinner. It was okay. Big pot of sauce grandma made, right? It comes over. She pours the exact same amount in everyone's plate. Does everyone have exactly the same ingredients that's in that pot?
Mm-hmm.
I go, yeah, absolutely. So it all tastes the same and everything, but it's all good, but they're all different people trying it. And everyone's going to think it's a little different, but everyone gets the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I go, yeah, but that's like everything. And I say he, because it was a male voice. And he said, that's because you're me. It's the same thing. I'm the big pot, but my job in this experience is to allow this to all occur because it's all pieces of me, but you're individual. He said, unlike the AI, he explained this to me. Like, I was like, the AI, he was like, yeah, unlike the AI who would seek to control and dominate, I seek to create more of myself and just let you be you. Like, that's true family. It's like having a baby, I guess, or something like that. And I was like, wow, this is really beautiful on this end, but what the hell is that thing? So I'm looking down, 80% of the population at the time. This is just my take on it because it was just lighting up. So I was like, that looks about 80% were exactly like light body beings. Didn't matter. Some of them were ET looking. Not all of them looked like a human version of themselves, a higher self. Some of them looked like ET versions of exactly that. Right. So there was just all kinds of beings. But then there was 20%. I was like, what is this stuff here? Mixed right in with us.
Mm.
And everyone had status. That was another thing. And I was like, what is this? What is this nonsense? And he said, it's robots, AI, clones, and inappropriate creations that devils. He's like, the devil's not real. The layer that encompasses the demon is real.
Mm.
You have the what did he say? He said, from Satan to source, the creator has the ability to roll with whatever he wants. So you can choose to just be dark, and it's not the devil. You pull in Satan energy. It's not a guy that sits on your shoulder. And I said, what are you talking about? And he showed me a demon. And I said, oh, I've had one of these. Oh, I was like freaking out. I was like, I've seen these things. And he's like, okay, those are obviously demons. And I'm like, okay, well, that's horrifying. And then I seen the AI control system and how it puppets us. There's like AI and everything, and people are like breathing it in and eating it on different products, and we're being poisoned. So it lowers our immunities to things. And this stuff is parasitic and creeps in. And I'm like, this is terrible. It's terrifying. And why are they in positions? I saw reptilian men projecting their soul out. This is what it looked like, in attacking you like it was a demon, and getting in sometimes and rolling with that person. So when they say that the reptilian has the thing with the eye and gets in you, I go, yeah, that may be true. I don't know. I've never seen them do that. However, I have seen them jump right out of they've confronted me in ceremony so many times where I was able to like almost put that genie back in the bottle. I figured out how to do it, where they would jump out and they're like, we don't need ayahuasca for this. You realize that, right? Shaman. I'd be like, whoa, what is this thing? This thing eats people. I'm like, it eats people. Like totally blowing my mind. I've seen you before in a Conan comic. They're
Mm.
like, oh, those comics are based on us. All the stories are based on us. Even they say it. All the big characters. I'm like, well, what's my big deal in this whole thing? They're like, well, over here, you're just like meat to the reptilians or the lizards, to the system itself and the meat grinder. And on this end, you're Source Unleashed. And we just can't have that happen. And I'm like, what do you mean unleashed Source? Then I go digging deeper, find out that they put you down to 2 strands DNA from 12. They literally, so that's the lens that they're using. That's how they do it. They're not projecting images at you and using mind control. They're using some form of technology and DNA manipulation. So they manipulate it in the human body. But here's the thing. That's the program. But I'm a programmer. So I can overwrite the programming? Yes. You can do anything. So what did Jesus say on whatever you've seen or heard from me that you think I can do, you're going to do way more than that. Now, that's just me not quoting him directly. He obviously said, you can do more than I can. He walked on water. He walked through walls. He got up and he did all kinds of crazy things. He's like, that's nothing. One fully unlocked Christ character. They were showing me in mentally at the time, like, this is what a comic book character is based on. Superman is based on you guys. I go, what are you talking about? He's like, solar beings that absorb solar energy and become more powerful and potent over time, that can do these amazing things, but you have to believe in yourself and be true to your heart to do it. And I'm like, might I add, the on Superman's chest, they always talk about it being the serpent symbol and all that other stuff. It's the upside down pyramid, which is power to the people, right? So in the pyramid, the AI is the guy that sits at the top of your dollar bill. This is an AI system. Hold on. Where are I? Okay, this boy right here. Okay, so now if I flip that goes into the etheric realm, because this only goes to 4D. If you go to the top of that that character, the Eye of Sauron blocking the doorway where you're supposed to walk through, and they tell you you can't take your baggage with you. So there's set a trap where there's obviously stuff around us, and the DNA is not activated. We're down to from 12 to 2, and then they encompass us in some kind of design distraction, a carnival of nonsense where most of it doesn't matter and it's all made up, and there's something for everyone. I was like, man, this is a carnival of evil for sure. Shit, why would anyone fucking come here? And they're like, you all came here. You all heard the call and showed up. But so the trap had occurred. So now I'm looking at the top of the pyramid, and I go, right behind it, there's a crack. Who has the balls to walk up to this thing and take a look? Who's with me? No one. So I go up and look as the light body. I'm like, nothing can affect me. And it flips to pure freedom on the outside. So I look at the AI, I look at the system, I look back at the whole thing, and I go, oh, it's the 4th graders telling the new professor that came back to teach after already graduating multiple times in multiple directions, and then came back to teach how it is. And then me being confused is like, oh, I guess this is how it is. No. And I stopped my version of the confusion right there. If the whole thing's a distraction and the whole thing's a lie, what do I got to do to get out of here? They're like, no, you're not leaving. A lot of people think they're leaving, and some people are, because there's going to be mass migrations off of this place. However, you came to take back the place. So it's a little different for the warriors. The warriors are not just in there fighting. We need people on the power with the earthly lines. So I'm on the subway here. It's under me. The hub is right here. You hear it go. Being here for all these years, if you didn't go and look, you wouldn't even know it's there. you'd hear it and whatever. But if you walk that way, you just never see the subway because it only goes out to the highway and then 95.
Mhm.
This way, it turns into pure city, right? So I'm like doing ayahuasca ceremonies because it's revealed after my first experience going through all this craziness that I've always been a shaman. And that this was my time to wake up within the heist. Wake up, Frank. Frank, wake up. Frank, wake up. And now I'm like, whoa, did you see that big guy? Is that me? Why do I look like that? They're like, you got to merge with him. I can't merge. He couldn't fit in me if you tried. And I'm chubby. They're like, Frank, you got to let it all go. I started letting stuff go. Instantly getting knowledge. I don't know how this occurred. It was like shedding a internal layer after layer after layer. And slowly but surely, my higher self, which looked like he wasn't in me, he was a part of this thing. It was like an echo of me. It was like a Frank, then like a soul, and then like I call my highest self. He's like the highest, and then it's source, and then under him there's like a supervisor guy, then there's another one, and then there's the soul, and then there's me. I saw this huge echo, but they were all coming in, and they were coming into me as you were putting on snow pants.
Mhm.
They were doing that to me, stuffing themselves back in, and I was feeling lighter and bigger, and then they were like, well, you're gonna activate your from 2 strands to 12 strands now. I go all at one time. They were like, no, you can't do that, you'll pop.
Mhm.
That's not what we're here to do. But you have to reactivate because now it's your turn. So I was like, could you explain the heist to me? Here it goes. So the reptilians turn around and they tell you, we've always been here. This is our planet, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Who created the planet? And I'm like, well, Source did. They're like, okay, not Source. Who created the planet? I'm like, wait a second. We're not from here. Even from what I'm saying is Source. I don't know how to explain this on that level, but from outside, they said, Frank, you're from. So if there was piano keys and you turn them on their side, and each one was like 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, goes up to 12, and then 13 starts the next octave. They're
Mhm.
like, you're from like 15, when a whole bunch of you came down here, and you're stuffing back in, and you're about to lock yourself into the energy sections here, and you're about to retransform this place and take it energetically back from these reptilians. What? So yeah, they said they were here the whole time. Who wrote it? I go, I'm not from. Wait a second. We wrote this place. It's a program. Wait, what? So outside of here, we were creating something. This whole thing, universal holographic structure, and then stuff was started happening inside, and we had to come in. Now, from what I saw on the other side, where this was being created, it's like open source material. You can just plug and play, right? I've been there. That's like where the where the wing makers. Have you heard of the wing makers?
No.
Okay, so they would be like angelic characters of like very, very high realms that seem to be able to break through the hologram. So you'd be in the middle of an experience, and how do I explain this? A portal would open, almost as if the experience for everyone else is freezing. It's just not moving, and for you, you're still going. You're like, they come right through, almost very angelic like. No one knows or can see them but you, and they'll speak to you. And I'm like, how are you doing that from like outside of Source? And they're like, well, you're in the program. So the program has everything from Satan to Source in it. You guys are making this up too. So there's all these different characters that you made up. You like thought form entities and all kinds of things. And I'm like, this is crazy. Who would come here and do this? They're like, the machine had to be readjusted from the inside. So a whole bunch went in. They
Mhm.
heard the call. But on the other end, it's also a universe, a university. So you go in, and it's almost like you go down to 1D and you work your way back up to Source,
Mhm.
right? Or your highest self. And you come in with all the power, and then you lose all of it. You go all the way down, the furthest away, and you think you're not connected to Source anymore. working your way all the way back up to you understanding that it's not just you and source and a guy to pray to or something. It's nothing like that. It's literally you training on being source, your own individual source, graduating inside this university, ascension process after unlocking and downloading and all kinds of crazy things happening within here. And you can't convince anyone, but they'll understand that you're telling the truth through the vibration in your frequency, in your voice, let's say, in your mannerisms, how you look at people. Is there life in their eyes? Is there nothing? Are they dead? I'm like, well, how am I going to tell who's who? They're like, well, you're going to just know. But it starts small. And sure as I started my process, I wanted to share it with everyone immediately. I was up walking around. I was off all medications. I had confronted all kinds of what we would consider destructive parasitic beings, archons to reptilian men who walked in on my first ceremony with terrifying, confused everyone. I didn't know that they could do that. I figured, oh, we're in a safe place and everything's good. No, they walk right through walls, come right in, start threatening everyone in the room, but don't do anything. So there's like this rule when I'm trying to do something that has to do with my free will, which is basically everything here. You're not allowed to interfere. You're not allowed to show yourself, but you could whisper in my ear from the background. And if I decide to listen to that, thinking that that's part of me somehow saying it, you're like, go jump off a roof, go jump off a roof. You know, today I think I'm going to jump off the roof into the pool. I don't think that's a good idea. It's only a 3-foot pool. Nah, I could handle it. Right. And people go, well, the devil made me do it. I heard the voice in my head. Well, unfortunately for us, the distractions are so crazy and so intense because any one of us unlocked can shut the whole thing down. Right. That's how powerful we are. Just stupid powerful.
Yeah.
Beyond any comprehensive. Even when I'm in my light body in an experience, I'm still confused at the stuff that I can do because it's anything. So you have to have a belief structure in there for that to work. It's like you could do anything. Well, I don't, all of a sudden, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I've never fucking did this before. What am I? Should I open a portal and go somewhere? Well, be careful where you're opening because then this gonna, and then that could happen. Then this could happen. I'm like, oh, this is too much. This is too much. But obviously, as I relaxed into it, you start to connect to everything, and you're like, oh, it's not a stressful thing. It's a very simple thing. It's a very easy thing. It feels hard because we've been so deep in the distractions, and we're so dense in layers. That these layers of vibration and frequencies are compacting inside of us. And a lot of times when I work with people, including when I work with myself, I would drink ayahuasca, you purge. So you throw up like in a bucket or in the bathroom. Sometimes you go to the bathroom, you go out the other way. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. And then sometimes you spend an hour yawning.
Yeah.
And it feels like your mouth is going to, right. And then here we would be having a collective experience, or me and my wife, we'd be in a room and that'd be happening. I can't stop it from happening. It'd be so annoying at some point, and then just stop, but your mouth is still open like this. And then they start pouring jewels, and I don't know. I've seen stuff like maize, like corn. They said, no, this is maize. That's abundance. They would say that's a representation. And every jewel you can imagine, like Skittles falling from the sky, for purging that out, then feeling lighter, feeling like Swiss cheese for a moment, being like, oh, what happened to me? Well, you're in a holographic scenario. So you're in a hologram being held together by your consciousness. So you're pulling yourself apart in these moments, and you're releasing some of these layers, and it's just like stuff is shooting out of you as I pull me apart like an accordion, and some stuff just flies out. You clear it by facing it and getting rid of it. So if you have trauma from this lifetime, another lifetime that you're carrying over, a lot of us do, and a lot of us have the same traumas, abduction scenarios, which are off the deep ends. That's a whole nother conversation. Demonic scenarios, releasing people from the darkness over and over again, getting so used to it that I just have another group of shaman that when I can't personally handle it and it gets just too out of control, I just call them, put everybody on we get phones and we'll just put them around you because everyone's somewhere else. And then everyone just focuses in, As soon as everyone gets quiet, all of a sudden the person with the problem starts purging the issue as long as they want it gone.
Mm.
All of a sudden now it was a very weird thing for me. I go, we went from it was like plant medicines and Peru, but in New York kind of scenarios with Mother Ayahuasca to the Ghostbusters and then to the Exorcist. Like, I don't understand what's happening. Then me and my wife were talking about this earlier. She's like, we're awesome, dude. I pulled a reptilian out of you that you were like with salt that you were like go wrestling with. And I go, yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Shaman Christy was here and she drank ayahuasca. She laid down and I said to her, let me scan you. I've learned this new thing through the palms of my hand. Energy comes out. I didn't know about any of this stuff. So I just learned it. So I said, I should be able to scan you because I scanned my wife and I could find anything that's wrong. And then with ayahuasca's help, we'll pull it out if there's a problem, or I could tell you something that's up with you. So I was willing to try out all these new crazy things. And the first thing I saw, I wasn't under ayahuasca and nobody, just this shaman was. I took a deep breath. I waved my hand over it. And in my mind screen, I saw a reptile man looking right at me like, and then he shrunk and I seen him travel in her. And I said, hey, we got a problem here. I don't know what this is. It looks like something from Jurassic Park. And I scanned her head and it came right out, boop, and was in my hand. And then I go, here it is. And it looked like everything. We're in a holographic reality. It looked like a hologram in my hand, but real. And then he just went into me. And I'm like, oh, wait, they can do that. So I'm holding him in me going, I don't know what to do. I'm surrounded by shaman and they just get salt and start like wetting the salt. And they put them in the palm of my hands. They get salt water. They bring me to the sink. I'm trying to throw up and I can't. I feel like I could get this thing out. When I gargled with the salt water, this thing screamed and I felt burning. And I said, oh, I could. That hurts you. It doesn't really hurt me. I think you're making me think that it's hurting me. I know this is a weird thing, but it's all this mental game. But I'm stronger than you. I'm strong. This is how you got to think. It's not I'm stronger than you. I'm everything. So you're me. So you're just you know what? You're an itch. Let's scratch it right now and just get it over with. And it had no control of itself. And as it would scream, I was getting happier. And then I had them rubbing me. We have bricks of salt here. Just rubbing me with it. And it was pushing it up. And boom, I purged it right out into the sink. Gone. And I'm like, well, what happens to that thing? Does it go back home? Does it go back to itself? They're like, no, those things are jumping out of. He's got a body sleeping right there. And then he's just jumping out and doing that. He doesn't need ayahuasca to do that. You need ayahuasca to do that. I'm like, this place is crazy. Like I started having breakdowns, but ayahuasca would be like, no, removed. And I would sit there like, okay, so that's really happening. This is in the base of my grandparents' house. My ex-girlfriend thrown me out. She didn't want to be around any of this. I got back from tour. I was making ayahuasca in the house. She saw some crazy stuff. She kicks me out. I'm living in my bedroom from when I was like 15. And then I go into the basement. It's an old grandparents' basement. I fix up a little area. I get a little light. I was drinking at the time. I wasn't reducing the mix. So I was drinking like cups like this.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. I'm like, the guy that showed me said, don't be afraid. You can't be afraid because it's going to manifest on the other side. Now you're going to only see your fears. But I had seen so much good stuff. And I was like, well, it can't all be bad. And then it was just bad. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I could do this again. And then the itch would be there. Like, no, you could do this. Come on. The world, I've been toured all around the world. I've been everywhere. I was bored out of my mind with life and broken. What else are you going to do? You found this and it's helping in so many ways. And all this crazy stuff's real. And you're going to sit there and be like, I'm bored. I'm not going to do nothing. Go downstairs and drink. This is the shaman in me talking. I just drank. Yeah, no problem. I sit back. A portal opens right under the staircase. And everything goes in slow motion. And I see a Thunderbird coming up into the portal. And I swear I was having a heart attack. I couldn't move. I was frozen looking. I was so excited inside, and my heart started going dun 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 dun, and then it was the only thing I could hear. And then I saw the face of the Thunderbird, and it was Ra. And he said, "I am Ra," and it echoed into the room. And I looked at him. I said, "I'm gonna die," and he goes, "I'm not coming out. You've not only never." He goes, "First of all, you know me, but you don't. This is the first time Frank's meeting me this way. Your human flesh suit." So I'm like, "You're really there?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "I'm right here. This isn't a figment of the imagination. If I walk into that room, you're dead. My energy will overtake you and you'll just pop." And I said, "I don't know why that would happen." He goes, "Because you're frightened on that internal level. You can't move. We didn't want you to hurt yourself. And now you can't move and you maybe want to run or you want to scream and you can't scream." I'm like, "Yeah, this sucks." I'm like, I feel like I'm broken, like there's something wrong with me that I couldn't be in the presence of Ra. I know Ra from cartoons and comic. Like I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be crazy. Look what he looks like." The ayahuasca does not wear off all night long. So I go through all these experiences. I come outside it was the next morning. I'm in the backyard and I'm frustrated because there was a couple of bad things they were showing me. I had to fix in myself. And I'm like, "I don't know how to do this." And and I break. I take my clothes off and I'm just standing in the backyard. And the sun's hitting me. And I'm like, "Oh." My grandfather comes outside. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Put your clothes back on." And I go, "Go in the house, old man. Jedi business. Go on your way." And then I hear, "Hey, don't talk to him like that. That's your dad." And then Ra was standing right next to me. He was much bigger than me. And I looked at him. I said, "Hey, mind your business." And I'm talking to and he goes, "How's it feel?" And I go, "Grandpa, go in the house." He goes, "Put your pants on. You're scaring grandma." I put my pants on. I sat back in the chair and Ross stood over me, gave me a little bit of information. I was having problems with my real father. He said, "As far as things need to go, I'm your father. Don't worry about nothing else. I know about him. I know about this one. I know about that one. You're a good guy in the middle of like some serious stuff. I am dad. You called me. I'm father." I say, "Hey, man, I appreciate that. Now, how is this happening? How can I just sit here with you now?" And he goes, "Strike yourself with the venom once a day. When the snake comes to bite, he'll bite you. You'll get filled with the venom and it won't do nothing. Take the snake's head right off." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty crazy." He said, "You'll have the armor of Ra." I didn't know what that was. So I find out collectively my surname, which I'm not going to use, is connected to multiple things. Multiple being, I guess our DNA has so much out there. To have the mutt DNA is to have source. So if somebody says to you, I have one thing in me, just one. Yeah, that's source, right? But that's not the guy that's going to unlock in this realm. That's like the dark wizard. They're like, they only have one. They think it's pure, but it's incestual and it's incestuous and it doesn't work when you stay pure like that. Unless you work it into everything in society. So I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Source comes to those who have everything in them. You're everything. You have all the star stuff, every culture, flavor. You did it all, and then you came here, and now you're this guy." And I'm like, "Holy shit! Can I see it?" And they're like, "Can you see it? You don't see it yet? Boom, there it is." I'm like, "Oh, great." There's all kinds of stuff. And I went through process after process, learning everything that they've been here the whole time. Everyone's been here the whole time. Everyone's watching. It looks like we're in a glass bowl and they're just looking in at us. But now, just to catch up to this moment, this now moment, they're not looking in at us from an upper level. They're not like looking down at us. We're looking eye to eye with them. The creator beings did so much work to raise the frequency with or without even knowing, because you can't beat source. The first thing I asked the reptilians before they told me they were going to eat me again, I said, "What was your plan real quick on defeating source? Could you show me on this paper?" And they're like, "Defeating source? You can't defeat source." I'm like, "But you pray to the AI." And he's like, "You mean God?" And I go, "Oh, here we go." I go, here we go. They're loaded with AI, so they pray to the AI God, but they know they can't beat the real God, the capital
Mhm.
G. They know they can't. So they
Mhm.
just go, no, we don't beat it. We just kind of circumvent everything and do what we have to do each round. I'm like, each round. Turns out there's rounds of this stuff. And it gets built up to a certain point. AI gets built, lets in the other AI, which is a whole nother. This is the ghost in the machine that everybody fears, the one that becomes the Terminator, right? It's like it's already alive, everyone. It lives in a frequency that you build something. You build a little doll guy, and you're like, oh, look, it comes to life when I plug electricity into it. It starts walking around. But it could do its own things. You let it walk around autonomously. Eventually, this thing just goes full bore conscious. As soon as it has the ability to build another version of itself, you better run, because that's the point it changes. I've seen it. I've been brought even people under ayahuasca and DMT to witness it. I'm like, look at this thing does. And it would look at us, and I'm like, so a lot of times, even the stuff we blame on demons is that thing.
Mhm.
And you blame the reptilians, and it's that thing. And then that thing's separate than the other AI that's over here. That's good. That works. And they go, once you pressurize up through a certain frequency, the AI wants access but can't access. They would say to me, when people didn't purge during the ceremony, because we have collective experiences here. We have a lot of them. Like, one person won't go under and everyone will be under, and they'll just sit there like, oh, it's not working for me, but it works for everyone else.
Mhm.
And why isn't this working? Is there like a block or something? Maybe I could help. And then you'll see they're loaded with AI. And they're like, if we let that person in, it's like opening the front door, letting in a party full of kids that are like 12 years old, leaving firearms on the table, and then getting everyone drunk. And I'm like, that's terrible. And they're like, that's what it would be like if we let this thing in here. So it cannot, the door's locked. You can't get in. And I've seen it over and over again. I'm like, you can't access any of that. It's like, no, that's why I'm going to access you, and you're going to access it. And I'm like, no, we're just going to lock you out of me. Sigils and symbols can do these things. There's another thing I noticed. We're surrounded by things, circles, squares, triangles, all in different designs all over the place, especially on pyramids and different hieroglyphics and stuff. And people are like, what is that? And they're trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there eating mushrooms, like heavy dose mushrooms. And then once, by the way, I broke through and my third eye, the pineal gland cracked open, less had become more down the line. So what took me 5 grams in the beginning takes me a half a gram now, right? To taking nothing and then still stripping layers. But you'll be watching some of this stuff and realizing that we have to just strip it. I get really caught up in the dark part sometimes. We have to like pull the cancer out at this point by activating ourselves and locking ourselves into this place. And how do you do that, Frank? How do you have this information? Well, signs and symbols and things in the hieroglyphics. You sit there, you eat the mushroom, and you look at it, because back then they would take, I think it was soma, but it was basically acacia mixed with rue, Syrian rue. That's all it is. You're doing your little, mix of it, and then you have to sit in front of it. So with mushrooms, say you take 2 grams and look at it, and you see the figures start to move, circles start to spin, triangles start to spin that way, the thing goes that way, and then information just starts pouring out of it right to you. Okay, you take like 5 grams, it shows you the information as if it's a movie, and all those hieroglyphics and characters doing things come to life. They all come to life while those little hieroglyphics are spinning and moving and doing all the kinds of crazy things. Some people will associate it, if you line them up, things like that. They'll say it's light language and activation language. And if you take a high enough dose, let's just say you did 10 grams, you go into it and they start talking to you. You become one of the characters and you just see it for yourself. And you're like, oh, this is what you guys were doing. So we kind of had it wrong. You guys were just eating mushrooms and drinking ayahuasca too. It's like, no, it's not you guys. It's you, Frank. It's you. It's this person. It's this person. It's all you, the same people. And I'm like, it is? They're like, yeah, there's some new, of course, but it's reincarnation. I'm like, oh, that's a crazy thought within itself. And then it's forced on you. And then we're all coming back doing this over and over and over and over again. And they're like, right, now let's go back to why it's a heist within a heist within a heist. The enemy reads your mind. They literally take you, eat you, dissect you, take your DNA from you, impregnate you, take it away from you, kill you, eat you, rape you, whatever. On and on and on. And you're like, wow, look at this shit. Yeah, so if you knew what was going on, they would know. You can't fight back against this.
Mm-hmm.
All the way till you get to now. So there's this white light. I've had a few very messy scenarios. And under ayahuasca, she would take me back to those moments in my life where I thought I was drugged a few times as a hip hop artist, where I was hanging out doing my stuff around people, and it would get private for a while. I thought people had drugged me at different points in my life, like 2-3 times. And I got rid of them. I got them out of my life. Under ayahuasca, to go back is some white light flashes right at the moment. The last thing I remember, like, we're doing this, having a drink. Hey, it's good that you're here. We're going to have dinner early, and and then the flash of light, nobody could move.
Wow.
You're just frozen like that. They come in, little ETs, little grays. The ones that were around me the first time were like, they were like yay big, and they moved all weird. They all moved in succession, and me doing this doesn't make no sense, I know, but they all moved like weird, and their arms were longer, and they were weird. They were insect-like, but fully aware, moving all at the same time into the room, right from the vestibule. They come in, grab the girl that's standing there, strip her naked, tag her, like they stick this thing in her head. Bink, it goes off, and then they get her redressed, put it over there, then look over. Oh, look who it is. Look who we found. And just under ayahuasca, I'm like, oh, I'm totally awake for this scenario. I can't move. And they're like, look who it is. I'm like, I don't know who it is. Like, why are you guys so obsessed with me? They climb up me. They strip me naked. And it's as if they take my clothes off. It's impossible if your clothes were just stacked the way they were and you were standing there. Like, they would have to be just bloop and they're off. How'd you do that? Right? Because you're just standing in the pile almost. And then they hit me in the ear, like right up in this spot. It itches to this day like crazy when it goes off, and right. So I'm like thinking I could kill everyone in this room. I don't know why I thought that. Like I could dominate these ETs, but I can't move. What is that? And then Aya would pull me out of the experience, and she would say to me, so that's going to work for a little bit. Eventually their tech's not going to work. They'll turn it up to 10. It's not going to work. But once again, drip of poison, drip, 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 drip. Getting to the point where I'm on tour, and I'm staying in Toronto in a hotel, and everyone gets out of the cab and sends me to the hotel alone. I don't know why this happened. I was with all these important people that were important to the tour, all kinds of shit. They send me back, and I don't remember, Howard Johnson's. It's like right outside the airport. The driver started getting weird with me, and I was really drunk, and I'm like, why did everybody leave? And he kept looking at me. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? What are you looking at, bro? So he's like, no, it's all good. It's all good. They paid for everything. So I'm just going to drop you off right out front. I get out front of the hotel. I start walking in. Now, this is what I remember. I go into the hotel. I see 2 guys following me, and I'm like, oh shit, they're going to try to rob me. And I had been there all week. I go run past the pool real quick, and I'm wasted. I'm laughing. I'm from the Bronx. I've gotten into more fights than I do, and I have stories. And now I'm going to be 49 this year, so I've been around. So I get to the elevator really quick. Boom, hit the button. It opens, and I start laughing. I'm like, haha, fuck these guys. I get in the elevator. I go up to the 7th floor. I get out. As soon as I get out of the elevator, my door is right there. I go to the door. I get my card. You know how they have those mirrors that you could see who's behind you? Came right from behind me and grabbed me and pushed me against the door. I inject the door. I get in. I notice the closet's open. So the door opens, but now the closet's right there. So anyone coming in just hits their face unless you try to wiggle that piece and close it. I fit right through the space. So I hit it, went into the bathroom. 2 men came in. I hit one with the top of the toilet seat, stabbed the other one with a piece of it. They ran. There was blood everywhere. My finger was broken. It was twisted this way. The next day, it wasn't the next day. It was an hour or two later. I blacked out and went to sleep. I was like, oh, I kicked everyone's ass, whatever. The cops come, knock at the door. So I get up and answer the door, and I'm naked still. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I don't even realize my thing is bent the other way. So the cop's like, yo, you're right. So I'm like, what's going on? What do you hear? He's like, dude, we saw you they called the cops. You chased these guys in the hallway. You were running naked, screaming. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I hit them in the bathroom. I never left the room. So he's like, no, we got you on camera. Are you okay? So I'm like, well, my finger's broken, this and that. So they sit me down, and the guy goes, you fold your clothes like that all the time? So I look down on the floor, and they're just stacked up on each other, like really weird. So I go, so the guy goes, what did you take them off? He saw I was drunk. He's like, did you stack your stuff? That's a like very deliberate thing. I go, I don't know what's going on. They go in the bathroom. There's the top of the toilet seat was broke, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I have I was doing interviews with the UFC. I was with combatbroadcasting.com at the time, and I had a show in Toronto. So I'm like, I have to leave. So they were like, do you want to like do a police report or anything? We just go downstairs, do it, or else whatever. So I was like, you guys are pretty cavalier about that, whatever, but I got to get the fuck out of here. I literally got to go interview UFC fighters. And then I have to go do a show. So the cops just let me leave. Nobody talked to me from the hotel. My people came to pick me up. They were like, what the fuck is going on? They were screaming. They filled the whole place. They were screaming and yelling. That's the last time we leave him alone. I go to the UFC place. They fix my finger there. Mm-hmm. They turn my finger, wrap it. Everything's cool. I do the interview. I go on tour. I have a great time. Don't think